right. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
hi, Tosin.
Hi, thank you so much for joining Fem Founders Live today. Finally, we're having this conversation, and I'm really excited about the topic we're discussing today. But before I go on, I would like you to just tell us a little about yourself. Who is Kellie Parks, and what do you do?
Okay, so I am a bookkeeper up here in Canada. I have a cloud accounting. It's called Calmwaters Cloud Accounting, and we are entirely a cloud-based and virtual bookkeeping business. What else? I work with accounting professionals on helping them love cloud accounting products and cloud running a cloud-based business as well, as much as I do. And I sell templates for bookkeeping and standard operating processes, including proprietary ones for financial sense. So that's me.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, you're a good friend of the financial sense team. So I I'm happy to have you on the show today to discuss creative ways to align your team around the common goal. And this topic is interesting because it's one thing to have a goal, it's another thing for your team to feel like they are a part of that goal, for them to feel like they have a part to play and they actually want to do something, to make that goal attainable. So it's a very interesting topic, and I know that firm founders will find it very useful. So without further ado, I'm just going to go straight and start asking the questions I have penned down here. And I know that you have so much to share with us. Okay, so my first question is, why does a firm need to have a goal? I mean, it's possible to have a company and every member of the team just does their own thing, and nobody actually knows what's going on, what the goal is for the company. So why is it important for, say, an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm to have a goal that everybody in the team tries to achieve?
Okay, so I think there's two kinds of goals. One of the goals is, what is the goal of the business? What is the goal of the firm? The overriding reason they exist? Why are they doing what they do? What's the end run? What's the outcome? All of these things that are goal related. And you need to, first of all, decide within yourself as the firm owner, where is the business going? Why does it exist? Is it scaling? Is it team oriented? Is it client centric? And if you don't start to state those goals, you kind of have people going, well, I don't know why we're doing the work. We're just here chugging along, and I'll make up the reason that I come into work every day. And that's not a way to operate for you or for your team or for your clients. And then the other type of goals are those client work goals. And I think these are really important to have. As you know, I'm a systems person, and I like to have systems in place, but I like to have all of the systems that I create need to have an outcome or a goal. I don't just willy-nilly create a process or a system for fun. And
Mm.
so these are some of the client work goals that you could have that you need to state. So essentially, how do you know how to get the work done if you don't know the income? So how do you create consistency of work if everybody has their own outcome? You're going to have all different kinds of work going on, and it's not going to be consistent. So examples of that are in the bookkeeping world. I strive to have 3 to 5 year-end journal entries. That's important to me. But some
Mhm.
firms, maybe it's more like 10 year-end adjusting entries that come back from the accountant, the tax pro, really. And or do they just do the books and let the tax, they don't care how many year-end adjusting entries there are. So for me, it's a clearly stated goal. I want 3 to 5. That changes the work, and it changes what Marissa's doing, because 3 to 5 means you've got to start looking at retained earnings. You've got to start looking at due to shareholder accounts. You're really in the weeds of a balance sheet, let's say. And those file reviews need to be nice and tight. If you just are getting through the work as best just to get it off to a tax pro, that's an entirely different way of working.
Wow.
Another big goal
Yeah.
would be, are you looking to close client files by the 5th of the month? So let's say monthly files. Is your goal to do weekly bookkeeping so that all of your clients are in real time? Is the goal to close by the 5th of the month? Is it to close by the 10th of the month? Or is it to close at the 11th hour? If you don't state those goals, your team members are not going to have any idea of which way they're running with the ball and when they should get to the end post.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I wonder why there's an echo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not even a bookkeeper or an accountant, but I know that one goal that an accounting firm should probably have is when, tasks and projects will be completed, so that
Yes.
so you don't end up sending, things to clients at the last hour, or you become known as that firm that sends things late. So I like the fact that you've mentioned a couple of goals, and that's what's supposed to be my next question. So you've answered that already. Examples of goals that firms can set or set for themselves. Okay. Then let's just go straight into the topic, right? We've talked about why a firm needs to have one or more goals that everybody in the team is aware of and working towards. You've also talked about some examples of goals that a firm should have. So, my question is, how do you, as a firm founder, how do you align your team around a goal so that everyone sees themselves as part of a moving machine? They see, that goal as a mission they are working towards. What are some creative ways you can do that?
Okay. So I have a saying that I love. It's from James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits. Have you read Atomic Habits? It's a great book.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book. And the premise of the book is it's not necessarily everything life is gigantic leaps, that it's a series of tiny wins and tiny changes, and all of these changes add up. But one of his main sayings is, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because one of the ways you can align people with the goals is to have very well documented systems that not only define the goals, but lead to achieving them. And so one of the examples, and I'm going to come to financial sense, is you guys have due dates. So not only are our tasks automatically recurring, there's due dates on them. So
Yes.
if the goal is that a task is done by the 5th of the month, it's clearly stated right within the workflow application that we use, Financial Sense. I think it may not sound like a creative way to align people with goals, but it's pretty hard to miss it if it's staring you in the face. I think another thing that you need to keep in mind with goals is that not just to say what they are, but to explain why they're necessary. So
Yeah.
when I mentioned that before, that I like to have 3 to 5 journal entries for end of year coming back to me from the tax professional. That is because that means the books have probably been in good shape all the way along, not just at year end. That these may well be 5-star books. And so one of the overriding goals for me is that my client books are in good enough shape that within a short time period, so let's say even a month, the client can decide that they can go for financing, take a look at selling their business, or decide if they are going to be retiring out of the business. So I want their books to align with client goals. So a
Yeah.
goal is that my firm does a good enough and timely enough and short journal accurate enough job of the books that it is aligning with whatever my client goals may be in the moment. The client doesn't necessarily need to be planning 3-4 years out. So I think knowing why a goal exists is almost as important as knowing what the goal is. So telling somebody why a small number of year-end journal entries is important is just as important as what the number is. And it's the same with the date. I want my client books to be closed early in the month, and I want them to be, basically, we do weekly roll throughs on Mondays. I want that to happen because I want my clients' books to be caught up, and we don't have a month end chaotic situation. The work is more evenly spaced. So it's not enough to say that I want those books closed between the 5th and the 10th and I want them to do weekly work. I tell them, or Marissa, not them, her, she knows that the reason I want that done is very clear. So not just the goal of getting them done on time, what's the reason that we want them done on time? And so I think that's one of the things you need to do when you are getting everybody online with what your goals are or aligned with your goals, is telling them the why of what it is that you want as well.
Absolutely.
And I just took you totally off topic. I went back. What you had asked are, what are some creative ways firm founders can align their team around goals? And then I went into a James Clear, and then I went into a spiel. And so number one is not just state the goal, but tell them the reason for the goal.
Yeah.
Yep. And then documented systems, not just to define the goal, but they lead to achieving them. So you've got up here, you've got what is the goal, then you've got what is the reason for the goal, and then you have how the heck are we going to achieve them? And I think that that's a really key piece to aligning your team members about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly. And, I think one thing that stuck out to me when you spoke was explaining the reason for the goal. Most times, when people don't understand why they need to do something, it's difficult for them to commit themselves to it. So I totally agree with you that it's important to explain why this goal is important and what it's going to help you achieve. So yeah, so three things you spoke about. um, Tell people the reason and document your systems. What was the third thing?
So it's state the goal, give the
Document.
reason for the goal,
Okay.
and document the process to achieve the goal.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So state the goal, explain the reason for the goal, and then document your systems. Okay. Let me just go into documenting your systems. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? So for people who are just, maybe starting their firms and they really want to get it right in terms of aligning the whole team around the goal, how do you go about documenting your systems? If you can, break it down into steps, that would be great.
Sure. And so let's just go with weekly bookkeeping work, for example, or let's go with month-end close. Let's go with monthly bookkeeping work. So what you would have to document these systems is the communication that would go out to the client that says, we need bank statements by X date. So you don't just say, hey, send me your bank statement. Say, we need your bank statements by this date.
Yeah.
And then, so whatever communications are going out to the client, they go out and they define what the client needs to do. Then you've got the task list that you go through. And for me, processes are built out in milestones. So you would have the milestone stage would be client has sent all documentation back to you so that you can clear. So it would be basically, I call it pre bookkeeping. You can clear the document app like Dext, which collects up all of the bank statements and the source documents. You can clear that and push that over to QBO if that's what you're doing, but even just make sure that the bank statements and such are in there. And then the next milestone phase would be matching in the bank feed or clearing the bank feed. And when you lay out that the task is clearing the bank feed, you probably need some subtasks on that too. How many banks there are to clear? Do you clear a payroll account? Do you do all of those things? So making sure that that it's not just clear bank feeds. That doesn't set you up for success of the ultimate goal, which is books that are useful to the client in a timely manner. Instead, you state the number of accounts that need to be reconciled, and then you have like a best practice for clearing them as well. So you need to open, in my case, you need to, before you clear the bank feeds, check accounts payable, accounts receivable, and make sure that something called undeposited funds in QuickBooks Online is cleared, so that you're not working your way through the bank feed and then getting into a hoo-ha in the reconciliation of duplicates, of transactions or duplicated income and expenses because you haven't cleared those properly. You need all of those kinds of things in your processes. And then the final is really in the weeds things about, so I have a client that they have so many niggly details about each vendor and what goes on in a bank rule versus a recurring transaction. And if this, then that scenarios, if they don't have this documentation, then wait for it. But if they don't have it for another vendor, it's like carry on. So the real in the weeds details about our clients, customers, and vendors need to be in there as well. So documenting it by milestone, in the weeds tasks, descriptions of how to actually do the work. So in my case, it's you open up all of these reports and you open up all the bank feeds in tandem, so you see everything at once in case of intercompany transactions or interbank transactions. Then the details about vendors and clients. That's a documented process that leads to a successful outcome of clean data for clients to use it. And it helps in terms of timing. I know I'm really getting into the weeds here. It helps in terms of timing too, because you can do that work quickly if you know how to do it and you don't get stalled onto the I don't understand this process. And then, can I add something else?
Definitely.
Videoing the work. So popping those videos of client work. Our client work in Financial Sense has all of those descriptions in it, all of those things that you need to do, but it also has videos of the work being done.
Wow, thank you. I mean, you use Financial Sense to track your work and everything. And so what you just described now, I think we call it workflow. Basically, it's like your standard operating procedure, and it shows the step-by-step process of doing certain, doing your carrying out your task and everything. Now, I like what you said about the video. So even if your employee is a new bookkeeper or is just starting out the job, it will be easy for that person to, understand exactly how to get things done and get the hang of things quickly. So thank you for breaking down what it means to document your processes and make it easy for everyone on your team to achieve those outcomes you've set for them. All right, so my next question is about obstacles, right? So when it comes to doing anything in life, you would always face challenges. You would face things that will make it difficult for you to get those things done. So when trying to align your team around a common goal, what are some obstacles you think firm founders will face, and how can they overcome them?
Okay, so when I say aligning team, I always mean clients as well.
Yeah.
And I know you're talking about more employees, but
Yeah.
I think it goes hand in hand with aligning the goals with your clients too. So I'm going to go back to the video thing because this relates to both your team and your client. So one of my goals is that everybody is confident working in the technology that we have, and
Mm-hmm.
building confidence in technology can be a little tough. So it, one of the obstacles is not educating people properly or assuming that they know how to use everything. And so very often I if a client sends me a note and they're struggling with something that may be a new process. So in the beginning, I spend time up front on education. Putting that time up front with either your team members or your clients will pay off in spades. And so one of the things I do though is if we're moving along and there's a new process, I actually video it for my client as well. Instead of just sending them back a note and saying, okay, this is how you do that, and letting them, so this is an obstacle, they're not confident.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to create confidence, I think not only are documented processes important, but I think videos, and I think not overthinking a video. So I've had videos where I've sent back to my client because I want them to go back to them in a timely manner. They're crappy videos, and sometimes they don't have. During COVID, I lost my voice. Sometimes they didn't have sound. I could come back, and I've come back from my run in the morning and I look like crap and I got my silly baseball cap on. I don't put on my camera, but I get on with creating the confidence. So I think an obs in creating the video, I think an obstacle people face is overthinking about getting information off to the people that need it. They want it to be perfect. And I think perfection is a big issue in achieving your goals, because you got to start somewhere on stuff. I think, of course, the biggest obstacle is no stated goals. If you as the
Mm-hmm.
firm owner haven't thought about your whys and how you're going to get there, that's probably the number one obstacle in getting anybody on board, is if they're all wishy-washy or they're not stated at all. Is so creating a value and mission statement will totally help with all of that. And then put it somewhere so that you see it, you read it all the time, whether it goes on your website. I have a piece of crap bookkeeping website because I'm not paying. It's not on my priority list to fix that little puppy up right now. But even on there, I've got my values and my mission statement and all of that. So that brings clients, they already know what I believe in. And team members would know what I believe in. And so they already know what you're about, but you need to take some time. I think an obstacle is not asking what the values and the goals are of your team member and your clients. If your clients are just in it for compliance and that's not what you're doing, that's not goal alignment.
Yeah.
So not asking the other person what they believe in or what's important to them will be a total disaster for keeping goals aligned.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said when it comes to aligning your team, it's not just your employees, it's also your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And not overthinking things, just creating a video, just do a screen recording of maybe an update to the software you use and how it affects your clients' work and all that. I like that you don't need to have a perfect video or perfect anything. Just get it done and help people build their confidence by giving them the knowledge they need. I think knowledge is one of the best ways to build confidence. So if you can help your team and your clients, help them understand basic things by creating a video, I think that's a great way to get things done.
Well,
And okay, go on.
also, when you said not perfect, your goal statement doesn't have to be perfect either. And it's going to be
Mhm.
fluid for sure. You're going to be iterating on your goal statement for now and evermore. Like the goal of your firm right now may be to scale, but a few years from now, the goal of your firm may be to coast, or maybe it's going to be to sell. It's always going to be iterating, and it's never going to be perfect. But you got to start somewhere and write down at least a few values, a few whys, and it doesn't have to be pretty, and you don't have to think it, but just come up with a few things that are like your North Star that you're heading towards.
Absolutely. When you are a small firm, your goal will be different. When you grow a little bit more to maybe a big firm, your goal will change. Even as a big firm, depending on what you want to focus on per time, your goal will keep, changing. So yeah, spot on about that. Okay. So
Can I throw one other thing in there, Tosin?
for sure.
I think not just because you may be growing will your goals change. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
not growing.
Mm,
Maybe you are happy with the status quo. This is the amount of money I want to make. This is the client load I want to have. I want to work 30 hours a week. I want my team members to work, 30 hours a week as well. But you get better at things. I think my goals as an early bookkeeper are entirely different than my goals now. So my early goals were kind of to get the books done and hope they were, out the way the client wanted them. Now the books are going out the way that I want them. And the balance sheet is the thing that I focus on way more heavily than I did in the beginning. So a clean balance sheet, that it's not a dumping ground, big goal of mine. So it's as your firm is growing, it's as you and your team are getting better at what you're doing. So it's not bigger, it's better. And that will change your goals entirely.
wow, wow. I love that perspective. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so I think I'm just wondering, it's easy to start something, you've come up with a goal or a couple of goals. You've documented your systems. You've probably explained the reason for the goals or goals to your clients and your team. But then 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line, slowly people start creeping back to their norm, to the status quo. So how do you ensure that people actually, your employees and your clients, everyone stays on track, and they don't go back to the normal way of doing things? They say 6 months or 1 year down the line.
Yep. So I was on the board of directors for the Canadian Bookkeepers Association up here. And one of the things we did at the start of all of our meetings, and one of the things that a couple of my clients do at the start of their stand-ups, a stand-up meeting where you gather your team and it's not necessarily about work, it's about the business. Then the mission statement of CPB Canada was read out at the start of every meeting. I think that helps. I think if you're communicating through a Slack channel very often, that having goals stated right in there, that you also celebrate the wins of getting there. So you've got a goal channel, if you will,
Yeah.
and that goal channel, as I said, is going to be iterating. But then I don't know, you celebrate it with silly things. Like I have a friend, he's at Live CA, they do tacos and donuts and all of these things. That's for other wins and stuff. But I think you need to celebrate the goals that you have, but I think you need to state them out loud at meetings.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, for us in financial sense, we're a fully remote team, and that's one of the things we do. Every time we have those monthly meetings, and one of the things we focus on and talk about are, talk about the goals we're trying to achieve for the
Yep.
quarter, for the months, and for the year. And that just keeps everyone aligned. Everyone is working towards that in their own little way in their different departments. So I totally agree with that. All
And,
right. So
and
yeah.
before we go, I want to state one thing that gets right in the weeds of actual accounting work. Keeping the goals on track, file reviews are very important. So you don't just do the work, there's actually a system that you review the books before you close them as well. So again, there's alignment on the business goals, and there's alignment on the client work goals. And alignment on client work will slip if you don't have a rock solid file review before closing and before year-end system.
Yeah, thank you. So it's important to always review, files before you close them.
Yep.
And that's a consistent way of ensuring that things are going as they should.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Kelly. We've come to the end of this chat. However, if you have anything else you want to say around the topic, maybe I didn't ask a question that brought it up and you want to talk about it. So if you have anything to say, this is the time for you to do that.
I don't think so. I think I interrupted enough and added things in out of order. So I think I'll be a good dog and knock it off.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us. I know you are very busy, so taking out time to have this chat, it's really a big deal for us. Thank you. And for everyone that joined us, thank you so much. I'm Tosin. I work with Financial Sense. Financial Sense is a practice management software for accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs, tax firms. We are the software that helps you get work done. So you can track clients' work, ensure that deadlines are met and your work is of high quality, and collaborate with your team using Financial Sense. So just go to www.financialsense.com to find out more about us and what we do. In another 2 weeks' time, I will have another guest join me on the show to talk about another interesting and really practical, valuable topic. And I'm going to see you all then. Thank you again, Kelly. Do you want to talk about anything? Any last words? I can just go ahead and end the live stream.
No, just thank you very much for having me. As you know, I'm a fangirl of Financial Sense, and you and I have had some interactions, and I'm always grateful to be able to see you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And thanks, everyone. Bye. See you next time.